What up, Mafia Nation? I'm MAGZ.
And I'm DJ SKALE.
We're here to do another reaction video for you. Let's get it. All right, what are we getting into tonight, man?
Today we are going to do some Sabaton history for you. The 7 Pillars of Wisdom of the story of Lawrence of Arabia. I'm mildly familiar of Lawrence of Arabia's story, but
I have no idea. None.
Good.
But these Sabaton histories are always pretty cool.
Very in-depth, very in-depth. I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Yeah.
But before we get to that,
make sure you subscribe.
Smash that notification bell.
And as always, like, comment, share, so everyone you know can do the same.
Absolutely.
All right, these guys are getting into the getup. Well, at least the guy on the right is. The other one's like, nah, I'm cool, man.
This is no, man. I'm absolutely European, and I am not getting burnt.
This is Joakim from Sabaton, and I'm Lawrence of Arabia.
And this is Sabaton history.
And I am Lawrence of Arabia.
Now, you may have noticed that this is not our regular studio. We are, in fact, standing in the Sahara Desert because we're filming the video for the Sabaton song 7 Pillars of Wisdom.
Okay.
Which, of course...
Now, I'm going to pause it there because normally with a lot of the videos that we've seen where there's the history, they are in that room that they normally are in. And the videos and or songs have already been out for some time. So, like, this is... like probably newer where they're catching up to what they've been doing, which is pretty cool. So they got to be on the set for it, so that's kind of cool.
I dig that.
It's got to suck for them, but
I mean, it's hot out there, I'm sure of that.
All right, guys, we just shot the music video. Now let's do
a whole episode of how this happened.
We're filming the video for the Sabaton song 7 Pillars of Wisdom.
Which, of course, is the title of the book that Lawrence wrote.
He did. Let's learn all about it.
Let's do it.
These guys are so excited about history. It
The
makes
Great
me like...
War, late 1915. British High Command frustrated about the war's progress. Not only was the Western Front as bloody and immobile as ever, the attacks at Gallipoli had yet to bear any fruit, and the success of the Kut al-Amara expedition in Mesopotamia was uncertain. The need to open yet another front seemed pressing to many, but forces were spread thin, with really the last available contingent sent to Egypt to safeguard the Suez Canal, which the Ottomans had attacked earlier in the year. But in Cairo, a new opportunity arose as the Sharif of Mecca, Hussein bin Ali of the Hashemites, offered the British a deal. The Sharif dreamed of building an independent Islamic caliphate, and in exchange for assistance in terms of money, guns, and supplies, would call upon the Arabs to revolt against Ottoman rule. The British chief of intelligence there, Gilbert Clayton, was intrigued. An Arab force running wild in the Ottomans' rear, disrupting the stability of the empire from within, was quite a proposal, though an independent Arab state on the Arabian Peninsula and in the north from Syria to Mesopotamia, as the Sharif envisioned, was absolutely not in the Entente's interest. Well, negotiations dragged on until March 1916, when Clayton succeeded in drawing in the Arabs without making concrete concessions. Instead, British High Command let the Arabs think that they would get a triumphant entry into the holy sites and would even take Damascus. An Arab army would be created, accompanied by carefully chosen British officers. One such man was Thomas Edward Lawrence. As a young man, Lawrence had been charmed by Charles Montague Doty's travels in Arabia Deserta and chose to study what was then called Orientalism, but which was Middle Eastern studies, and the Arabic language. Now, he was not an imposing figure, standing only 165 tall. That's 5'5".
Oh, man.
Those of you who don't do
He's
meters.
shorter than me.
But he compensated with intelligence, passion, and a fair amount of showmanship. He was assigned to the British officer corps in Egypt, spending most of his time collecting the necessary maps about the Near East and supervising the decoding of telegrams between Gallipoli and Cairo. Lawrence's expertise in the cultural, geographical, and religious characteristics of the region made him an ideal candidate for this new mission.
Far from home, a man with a mission, in the heat of the glistening sun, in the heart of ancient tradition, this man's journey has only begun.
By June 1916, Lawrence and a group of British officers were on their way to support the Arab revolt that had been proclaimed by Faisal, the son of the Sharif of Mecca. In and around Mecca, the rebels had already overwhelmed the small Ottoman garrisons. However, the Great Revolution had failed to materialize. There were some intellectual circles in the big cities who supported the idea of an independent Arab state, but the bulk of the population had remained pro-Ottoman. The deliberate revolutionary conflagration did not materialize. Ottoman soldiers were not deserting in droves to the Sharif as hoped. Faisal welcomed Lawrence into his camp, though, and had him dressed in Arab clothes. This was an important gesture. Wearing the looser Arab dress instead of the tight British uniform, he visibly became part of the Arab culture and slowly gained the trust of the other tribesmen. Lawrence slipped into his Arab skin, as he called it, and could freely move in and out of Faisal's tent. While the British High Command judged the value of the Arab revolt purely by the numbers of rebels or the amounts of rifles, cannons, and gold they had to supply them with, Lawrence began to understand the Arab struggle and their desire to live freely according to their religion and their customs, as he spent weeks on end traveling with them through the desert. The more he came to know them, the less he supported the British Empire for its arrogance towards lesser civilizations and its ignorance of the Arab world. On the other hand, though, Lawrence knew very well he could never fully become one of them. He could make the tribesmen respect him or even befriend him, but he would still forever be an infidel to them. He felt that a shadow of loneliness and contempt for the world was creeping over him. More and more, he felt like he was playing a role, an actor on the world stage, moving from one civilization to the other. Sometimes...
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it for a second. Yeah, that's gotta be rough, man. Like, when you go into things like that and you actually end up enveloping yourself in it and knowing that you're not really a part of it, that's rough.
Yeah, that's definitely a hard pill to swallow in the situation when you realize that nothing that you do can actually get you to where you really want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kept pushing on, though. I'll give him that much.
An actor on the world stage, moving from one civilization to the other. Sometimes he was a British officer leading the Arab revolt, revolver in hand. And then sometimes he was a traveler in Arab clothing, riding for days on end through the desert on camelback. By the end of 1916, Faisal's host had been pretty much constantly on the run from the Ottoman army. The Bedouin were tough and fearsome warriors, sure, but totally unaccustomed to the tactics of modern war. They were not willing to dig trenches, and even if they were persuaded to dig them, they refused to get into them. They wanted a mobile fight, as they had had for generations, attacking quickly and in a fury. And if things didn't go their way or they were outgunned, they retreated and evaded their enemies. And Lawrence had to accept that he could not turn the Bedouin into modern soldiers. Although courageous, they were easily spooked by artillery fire, and the sight of a single airplane could throw them into disarray. They could be trained to work machine guns and handle explosives easily enough, but would not parade like European armies, nor could they be drilled and ordered around. So Lawrence had to work differently with them. Once more, the British financed an army for Faisal, recruiting thousands of eager warriors from the local tribes. They made for the city of Wag and overwhelmed the surprised Ottoman garrison, slaughtering the defeated troops and plundering everything of value. In fact, the Bedouin leaders refused to carry on until they had finished celebrating. It was custom. Nowhere else was it more obvious how modernity clashed with old traditions.
Lead the charge, a leader has entered the battlefield. Sabotage, the game is about to unfold.
So, through the long desert rides, in an environment totally unknown to most of his people at home, Lawrence tried to figure out how to maximize the strength of Bedouin warfare. They avoided the main Ottoman units and instead waited in ambush for smaller reserve units or supply columns. In guerrilla fashion, they raided minor camps and attacked telegraph stations, and were more of a nuisance than a real threat to the empire. That is, until they set their sights on a major lifeline of the empire, the Hejaz Railway that ran between Damascus and Medina. Lawrence led the ambushes, laying mines and explosives on the railway line. Then, at the crucial moment, as the mines exploded and the locomotive derailed, he let the Arabs loose. Supported by Lewis machine guns, the Arabs first shot the carriages to pieces and then stormed the wreckage with scimitars and daggers, killing the survivors.
Oh, man.
The Arabs were fighting
Brutal.
like devils, the sweat blurring their eyes, dust parching their throats, while the flame of cruelty and revenge which was burning in their bodies so twisted them that their hands could hardly shoot. By my order, we took no prisoners, for the only time in our war. By the end of 1917,
That's
the
crazy.
British had pumped nearly
That's a
2
way to learn
million
to use your
pounds worth
troops,
of
though.
gold into the saddlebags of the Sharif and his sons. And not without reason was Lawrence called the man with the gold. And the constant losses on the Hejaz Railway and the British offensives in Palestine had put steady pressure on the Ottoman forces, allowing the Arabs to move more freely. The capture of Aqaba solidified Lawrence's reputation as a Bedouin leader, and more Arabs began joining his host, even as Ottoman protection money was drying up. By September 1918, the Palestine front finally collapsed under the weight of the British offensives. The Ottoman army was in full retreat, and chaos raged from Palestine to Syria. Most of the Holy Land fell under British control, and together with Lawrence's Bedouins, they pursued the disorganized Ottomans. But this phase of the fight showed another side of the guerrilla war. That was not just romantic camel rides in the desert. The brutality of the Arabs was well known, but it became so problematic that British officers even sometimes allowed their prisoners to keep their guns to defend themselves against the Bedouins.
Wow.
And as the Allied forces moved on Damascus, it also became clear that the British had no intention of allowing the Arabs their own independent caliphate.
Oh man.
Instead, the Middle East should be split up in spheres of influence among the British and
sure
French
they loved
as
that.
soon as the Ottomans had lost control over it. The economic and
That's a horrible thing to do right in the middle of, needing them. Yeah, I know we need you guys, but that thing we promised you, we're not going to give that to you. We're going to split it up between everybody else.
And they're so scared of them that they're literally leaving the prisoners with guns. Like, hey, by the way, these cats are probably going to kill you, so you're going to need to hold on to this.
Oh man, that's
There's
rough.
some badass motherfuckers, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
among the British and French as soon as the Ottomans had lost control over it. The economic and geostrategic importance of the region were too important after all. They had signed the Sykes-Picot secret agreement already in 1916, with the lands carved up by lines just
Oh, so they
drawn
did it
on a
without
map,
telling them.
with no regard for tribal or religious boundaries. An
Yep.
agreement which bears a fair amount of blame for 100 years of Middle Eastern strife. Lawrence found himself confronted with events moving beyond his control. As the Great War ended, Arab independence seemed to be further away than ever, and he, soon a hero to the British public, felt like a traitor. He published his experiences in his book, The 7 Pillars of Wisdom. The cabinet raised the Arabs to fight for us by definite promises of self-government afterwards. Arabs believe in person, not in institutions. They saw in me a free agent of the British government and demanded from me an endorsement of its written promises. So I had to join the conspiracy and, from what my word was worth, assured the men of their reward. In our 2 years' partnership under fire, they grew accustomed to believing me and to think my government, like myself, sincere. In this
Wow.
hope, they performed some fine things. But of course, instead of being proud of what we did together, I was bitterly ashamed.
I bet.
T.E. Lawrence would soon become the legend Lawrence of Arabia, a modern Robin Hood to the British public. His tale was a tale of courageous fighting, of distant journeys, and exotic oriental adventure. Although it is often hard to tell what truly happened and what was Lawrence's exaggeration and dramatization, and that is still debated by historians today, his legendary status is unquestionable, and like the Red Barons, it has lived on for 100 years after the Great War.
Yeah. Man, I can't wait to watch this video.
Now, did
Song
you ever
sounds so
actually
badass.
read Seven Pillars of Wisdom?
I did. Somehow I regret it though, because
Okay.
it wasn't very good, if I'm honest.
What was it that
Let's be real with you, it fucking sucked.
Oh man. Let's hear that again.
Now, did you ever actually read Seven Pillars of Wisdom?
I did. Somehow I regret it though, because
Okay.
it wasn't very good, if I'm honest.
fuck
What
that
was it
shit.
that you didn't like about it? Because I never actually read the whole book. You'd think I would, but I never have.
I was about to give up several times. It's just the way he writes,
Yeah.
basically. But it was really cool to read it anyway. I'm happy now
The
because
difficult
there
read,
were
he
certain
says.
elements in that we
I mean, the
could use in
historian
the
didn't finish it. I'm just saying.
And it's great because it's a location that we can use in the video.
Yes.
You know, I mean, look at
So
I mean,
excited.
there's a lot
Yes.
of pros and cons with filming in the Sahara Desert.
Yes.
Well, why don't you tell them about some of the pros and some of the cons?
Oh, top pro is, well, first time here for me. It's an amazing place to be.
I've never been here before. I mean, look at just It's okay. The thing is, it's really peaceful and it's really zen.
It's a bunch of sand and it's
and
hot.
expansive. But
I'm
after
sure
you've
that
been
it's
here for, like,
gorgeous,
2
but it's a
hours, you
bunch of
realize
sand
that
and
even
it's
if I had all
super
the water I wanted,
ridiculously
if I was here
hot.
for a day,
Ask the people that live there; they'll tell you the same thing.
As a tech in a stagehand like myself, could you imagine being the guy that has to set all that up?
Could you imagine humping that gear? How hot is it? Like, I don't know. In the van, it says it's 103. All right, sweet. The van's parked in the shade. Oh, okay. So how hot is it? It's like 140. Oh man, should this light even be on? It's supposed to be. It's like, oh, it's on fire, I think. So hot.
Or oh my god, could you imagine what all that sand does to equipment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anything that turns or opens or anything like that? Nope, not anymore.
Oh man.
after you've been here for like 2 hours, you realize that even if I had all the water I wanted, if I was here for a day, I'd die.
Yeah.
I mean, it is deadly.
And it
peaceful.
can become really brutal that fast. It's when the wind starts to blow, man. Because the sand, when we were shooting the musical part of the video, and I'm singing, I always sing.
I gotta pause again. I'm sorry. He said it's the wind. When I went to Vegas, and we went into the desert, it was great. And then the wind blew. You thought it would be better. No, it's just like
Hot air.
hot. Oh man, I mean, people who are there, they understand. But for you guys who aren't there, it's a whole different. Like up here, the wind has moisture in it, so when it hits
Up
you,
here.
it feels nice. In Ohio,
Where we're at.
when the wind hits you, it feels great because it has moisture in it. But when you're in the desert, it's just there's no moisture. It's like it's blowing at you. It feels like it's just ripping the moisture through you and out.
And it is actually crazy. Crazy enough, it really is.
I almost died in the desert, but yeah, whatever.
It's all right.
I really learned about the desert that day.
Shooting the musical part of the video, and I'm singing. I always sing along to the track, because if I just basically move my mouth, it doesn't look very good. So I'm actually singing along. And once the wind starts blowing, you get sand. So I think I've swallowed about 3 cups of sand last night.
Yeah, but you look great.
Oh, thanks, man.
I can see myself in your glasses. I'm thinking I look great.
Oh, yeah.
I like that they cast me, friends and all, as Lawrence of Arabia, but the Peter O'Toole version from the iconic movie. And he had that softer voice. I always see insubordinates. Yeah, you killed him. He
I
was
love
my
how they
friend.
had that little bit.
Added the
Now,
grain
if you
to
look
it.
over there, you can see a green thing. That is the oasis where the resort and hotel is that we're staying.
A green
We're
thing.
staying in the tents.
Yeah,
But
tents.
they're tents that have toilets and showers. And
Okay.
I have 2
Scorpions,
doubles.
spiders.
Not making
I
out.
believe those are called
cockroaches.
yurts.
What else have we seen?
Wild camels, but not in the tents.
Yeah, not in the tents, unfortunately.
Wild
However,
camels?
we only have air conditioning between 7 in the evening and 7 in the morning.
And I did mention that we're in the Sahara Desert, so it's fairly warm.
Yeah, and imagine how great it is to
Fairly
get up 4:30 in the morning, go and have breakfast. It is actually quite great. And then you drive out here for the first time, which is also great.
It's great.
And then you should do your first shoots here, and it's great.
And then it's 9 o'clock,
Yeah,
and you want to nap,
yeah,
and you go back to the tent, and it's 50 degrees in the tent. That's Celsius, by the way.
yeah. And
So-
not so great.
Yeah. And then you say, oh, the air conditioning is not working. And they go, no, only 7 to 7. And I'm like, can it be these 7 to 7? Because they run them 2 a day here in Tunisia. you know?
Yeah.
This was, I've said it to you guys before when we first got to listen to the album, even before you released it. This was my favorite song on the album.
Thank
And
you
that
very much.
hasn't actually changed. So-
It's still mine as well, actually.
Okay.
It's got that old school, like 80s hard rock heavy metal vibe to it.
This was actually Astrid's favorite song on the album when
Oh,
she
really?
first listened to it too.
Just from within, or compel the pillars of wisdom can tell. Back home where a new life awaits.
Swallowed 3 cups of sand. Yeah, I believe it.
Hope you didn't pull up and
we
throw it
are
in the air.
obviously not in Tunisia now, and it's because after we filmed what you just saw, there were some other events that happened on our trip.
Yes, a little bit of a surprise on the way back.
Well, take it away.
Well, as some of you might know, we were in a car crash.
Oh.
We are all going to recover, though. He's still suffering a bit from cracked ribs, and I think Pat got a crack in his neck or something like that.
Yeah.
And had some stitches in my face, 7 stitches. So 7 stitches of wisdom.
What? Ooh, 7 stitches of wisdom.
Yes.
Now, I
7
was not
stitches
with them
of
in the car
wisdom.
because I was still filming. I had another day of filming on Camelback
In the
It-
salt flats, right?
and the Salt Flats, and it was my 3rd day on Camel, and by that day, I thought I was pretty good at riding Camel. I mean, the first, riding it's okay when they're leading you around, but by then I could guide it around.
And I got to admit, I really enjoyed riding a
looks
camel.
like
That's the
he
thing I
stood
liked
on
most about the
camelback.
entire trip was learning how to,
Has a lot to
get
do with
decent
the
at riding a
outfit,
camel.
I think.
Was it like you expected?
No, everybody said, okay, it's going to be a different motion, and I knew that, but you could sort of get into it's especially when you're going faster. Although in the salt flats, because there's mud and stuff under the hard tops, and every now and then my camel, his leg would break through, and then we'd be stuck. We'd have to be stuck until somebody could come and get him out. And they were doing a long shot at one point, so I'm like, 2 kilometers away from any human being, dressed as Lawrence of Arabia in the Sahara Desert on a camel, wondering how did life end up like this when I was a little boy. And I'm guiding my camel, and in my pocket of my robes I've got a walkie-talkie so I can hear them tell me if they want me to go left or want me to go right. So I'm leading the camel left and stuff. But then after a while, the camel decided he just didn't want to go anymore. So I knew how to with the legs and stuff, and that had worked before. But nope, this time it didn't work. And I can hear them on the walkie-talkie. They're like, no, don't stop, keep going. I'm like, I'm trying to talk and push the buttons, but since they're filming, I'm like, it doesn't want to go anymore. I can't make him go. And then the camel sat down. So I got off the camel, and this is a cool thing you can do with camels that you can't really do with horses. I got off the camel, I sat down in the sand, leaned against the camel, and just waited for them to come out. Just me and my camel, just hanging out there in the desert. So that's what I did. Well, you guys.
Camel said, "Man, this is my union break." Man.
Well,
Go.
I mean,
Said I'm done.
Whatever, for better or for worse. And there were good things and bad things about the trip. Obviously, it was absolutely an adventure.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I mean, could have been without the car crash, but
Yeah.
truly an adventure.
Okay, well, that is all for today from Sabaton History.
Take care and see you soon.
Oh man. I'm just gonna read it, whatever.
The camel gave up, so we got this cool shot of you sitting here
Hello
next
there.
to it reading a book.
It's hot. You should become a Patreon so I can afford to go home.
That was funny.
Almost got me.
I think that's 10. Wow.
That's a long video.
That was, yeah.
But it was impressive, man. I didn't know all that about the Lawrence of Arabia story. I did know that he had done some things that he wasn't real proud of.
Yeah.
But now I really just can't wait to watch this music video because I can't see how I can't wait to see how they actually added all that in there.
Yeah, for sure. Like I didn't know anything about it, but yeah, that's kind of a sad tale to like he really got accustomed to them, but at some point he knew he was lying to them and like, yeah, we're gonna give you what you want. I love you guys, but we're really not gonna give them what they want.
Yeah. He's like, here you go, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, like, just like the first time that we watched anything with the Sabaton, like with the Audi Murphy was my first one that I watched.
Yep.
And it was like they get so in depth with the lyrics and like with the storytelling in the song alone. So like I just can't wait.
I know, and like the snippets they were playing sounded pretty badass. So
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Thank you guys again for watching. If you have any other suggestions, let us know in the comments below, or you can hit us up on Discord, which is this guy right there. Or if you want bump to the top of the list, make sure you check out that donation link in the description below. What else we got lined up for?
We'll probably put a link to that thing in the description. Yeah, does that make sense? The next the actual music video for this one, or do we put them both in the same thing? I don't know how this works.
The way I normally do them is I put them out, schedule them out for the both the same day. So you
Perfect.
do the history first and the video first. So keep an eye out for that. If you're watching this, more than likely the we're many my words soup. More than likely the music video will be out. So make sure you guys keep an eye out for that. We have all of our social media scrolling below. Make sure you guys check them out.
hit
You can
us
see
up,
us
see
behind
what
the
we are.
screen.
See
the fun people.
see who we are as real life.
I need to get one of those for my house.
Yeah.
We're at base B and we don't have our can of word soup with us, but here it's here in spirit. It's here in spirit. We also have a shop. Make sure you guys check that out as well. Description as well. We have a lot of cool stuff there. Coffee cups, shirts, leggings, other fun stuff. And we have a Patreon coming out soon.
Yes.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. But till next time, guys.